A member of parliament, I guess you would say, a member of the House of Representatives in the Netherlands, okay? And the name, she represents a political party. And guess what the name of that is? The Party for the Animals. Now we share the world, this globe, this earth, with a lot of other creatures, other species, other sentient beings. I think they deserve at least one political party. And I think we need one right here in the United States. Right? Okay, I'm going to say some credentials on this woman. She is the onstage, that's how I'm putting it, the onstage narrator for the pro-vegan DVD called Meet the Truth, and we all know that it's being played for free right across the street at the New York Film Academy at 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. tonight. So after all this, if you haven't gotten your fill, and I know I will not have had my fill, we can go right over across the street and see a tremendous video and hear Marianne speak some more, and we may have panel discussions, and we're going to carry this on. Now, Marianne Thieme presents a hard-hitting but popular presentation of the vegan environmental aspects, emphasizing in particular livestock's heavy influence on global warming. Early in Marianne's career, she was a fauna consultant for the Dutch, what is this? The Dutch Society for Animal Welfare. And I'm just going to let Marianne take it over right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the floor. Well, English is not my own language, so I'll use this piece of paper if you don't mind. But, well, as you already said, I'm Marianne Thieme. I'm a member of parliament in the House of Representatives in the Netherlands, that's in Europe. And, for the ones who don't know. And I'm very pleased to be here at the Veggie Pride Parade in New York, a wonderful city with so many people being vegan and vegetarian. That's it's giving me a warm heart. Well, the Party for the Animals is the first party in the world ever represented in a national parliament today. And the Party for the Animals does not revolve around human beings. Or, as a professor who mailed me in Nashville put it, the first political party in the world that exclusively stands up for the rights of non-humans. And therefore also for people. We humans are the only living species that destroys our own living environment. Animals would never do that. What distinguishes us from animals is that we can make ethical decisions and are supposed to be more intelligent than animals, and yet, strangely enough, we use that distinction to our own disadvantage. People cannot survive without animals and plants. Animals and plants can do perfectly well without humans. Best friends, people are the problem of this earth, but we vegetarians and vegans can provide the solution. The land currently used for agriculture can produce enough protein to feed 40 billion mouths. But this would have to be with beans, rice and grains, not with meat. We have made a film about this, and this film will be premiered after the Veggie Pride Parade at the New York Film Festival at 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. And I invite you all to come. Together with the Europeans, Americans are the largest consumers of animal proteins in the world. The large consumption of animal proteins does not only pose threats to the individual health of the consumer, meat consumption also has a huge impact on the environment, the world's fresh water supply, biodiversity and the climate. In 2006, The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations calculated that 18% of the global greenhouse gas emissions are caused by livestock. In comparison, the emissions from the global transport sector do not exceed 13%. Our stakes seem to contribute 40% more to climate change than our cars, planes and trains. This is why the Nicholas G. Pearson Foundation, in collaboration with the Free University in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, decided to carry out research into the relationship between meat consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. The results of this research are presented in our documentary, Meat the Truth. If all Americans gave up just one meat meal per week, the effect would be equivalent to removing 19.2 vehicles from US roads. Wouldn't that be great? And this is why it is more than justified to ask why governments worldwide spend so much time and effort devoting themselves to protect the climate by focusing on improving the environmental performance of cars, promoting the use of low-energy light bulbs, but appear to have completely ignored the issue of meat production and consumption. A tax on steak would, for example, have a greater impact on the environment than levying mileage charges on car owners. The use of land for the production of animal proteins is roughly 10 times as great as for the production of plant-based products. Almost 50% of the total wheat harvests are fed to animals. 80% of agricultural land is used for grazing animals, or producing animal feed. Part of the current food crisis and the 850 million people who are suffering from hunger is a direct consequence of Western meat consumption. This is not to mention the dangers of infectious animal diseases, like the swine flu. In order to effectively tackle the climate problem, a reduction in the consumption of animal proteins will be unavoidable. To a large extent, the solution to the climate problem can be found on our very own plates. Our fork is a powerful weapon against climate change, people. What we dish up can make a real contribution. Meat is wasted energy. Dear friends, we vegetarians and vegans can offer the world a future. A vegetarian or a vegan diet can provide a solution to the climate problem, the global food insecurity problem, the fresh water problem, the problem of land degradation. It could stop the destruction of rainforests. It could tackle the problem of obesity. It could improve the health of billions of peoples. In short, vegetarianism can offer a future to new generations. Vegetarianism is the new revolution that will change the world. After today, you and I are going to do our very best to convince more people to create a more plant-based and thus a more humane world. Thank you.
And I would like to say, on behalf of the Nicholas Pearson Foundation, welcome you to the New York Film Academy. I'm very pleased that we could organize this premiere here for you today. And it's also very special that you've come here this Sunday afternoon to see the New York premiere of our documentary, Meet the Truth. The scientific world has known for a long time that we cannot continue producing animal proteins on the scale that we do that now. Numerous reports produced by renowned scientists from, example, the World Watch Institute, the VU University of Amsterdam, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, and also the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, were translated by our researchers into a visual document which explains the impact of meat consumption on climate change and the use of natural resources and also the hunger in the world. The Dutch version of Meet the Truth was premiered in Amsterdam in December 2007. And since then, there has been more discussion in the Netherlands about the influence of meat consumption on the environment than ever before. I'm very proud to present to you this documentary today because it forms an addendum on earlier documentaries on climate change, which failed to address one of the biggest causes of global warming. I'm convinced that a lot of people will think differently about climate change after they have seen this documentary. So before we continue, I would like to present Marianne Thieme, the very first member of parliament in the world representing a political party which places the interests of non-humans at the very top of its agenda. Welcome, Marianne Thieme.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you so much that you've come all here to see the documentary. When I flew in on Tuesday from the Netherlands to New York, I could never imagine that we had a room full of people and is waiting for this documentary. Thank you for coming. It's not quite the premiere tonight, since we already organized a preview of the film during the 17th UN session of the Commission on Sustainable Development that was screening for government representatives and NGOs. But today is what it is really all about. A public premiere of a film that not only reveals the problems surrounding meat consumption, but also provides the solution to the problem of creating a sustainable, plant-based and thus also more humane world. In 2006, the Party for the Animals was elected to the Dutch National Parliament, the House of Representatives. Apart from the fact that there is now a lot of discussion about the welfare and rights of animals in the Parliament, we also have a scientific bureau, the Nicholas Pearson Foundation, which has taken existing and new scientific research data on the impact of meat consumption and produced the documentary Meet the Truth, which you are all about to see. I'll keep things brief. The film tells the story. However, what I want to say is that during the making of this film, I have increasingly become aware that vegetarianism will play a key role in saving this planet. The climate change, the problem of global food security, the issue of biodiversity, the fresh water problem, the animal disease crisis which threaten a pandemic that could cost millions of people their lives, the obesity problem and numerous other health problems are all on the plate of meat eaters. Our forks are powerful weapons that can unleash a food revolution 3 times a day. If we all want to help a bit, many of the problems I've listed could be solved at the dinner table. This is what brings us together. We have an important task to fulfill in a world that has completely lost its way. Let us use this crisis as a real turning point towards achieving a sustainable society. It can and it must, for the sake of the future generations and for the sake of the animals, nature and environment. I hope that you will enjoy the film and I will be happy to answer any of your questions after the screening. Thank you.
global warming, that's the world's greatest current concern. An inconvenient truth was a real wake-up call to the world. This was a great achievement for Al Gore. However, he forgot something rather important. 18% of global greenhouse gas emissions are caused by livestock farming.
Oh, really? Wow, I thought it was mostly cars.
Nothing is done about it, and we continue to produce animals in the way we do right now. And in that case, the environmental impact is going to deteriorate beyond measure.
If you consider that it takes about 7 kilograms of grain, that's corn and soybeans, to just make 1 kilogram of beef, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of hectares of soy being planted in former rainforest to provide meat.
I don't expect everyone on the planet to give up all meat. I think that's unrealistic. But I do think we could get people to understand that meat shouldn't be something they have for their own health on as regular a basis as they do have it.
We need to start picking carefully what we eat, how we eat, when we eat it, where we get it from.
Our fork is a powerful tool.
A vegetarian in a Hummer produces fewer carbon emissions than a meat eater in a Toyota Prius. But a vegetarian on a bike is much better.
If all Americans didn't eat meat for just 1 day a week, this would save 90 million plane tickets from New York to LA or from LA to New York.
I'm Kevin Schuker, and this is QUEST.TV. Today we're coming to you from the New York Film Academy here on 17th Street and Union Square in New York City. And this is really the final part of the Veggie Pride Parade here in New York City. We've been following the parade all day and hanging out with the speakers in Union Square. And tonight is a very special screening of a premiere of a movie, Meet the Truth. And we have a very, very special guest. I have Marianne Thieme from the Netherlands. And Marianne is a member of parliament in the Netherlands for a very unique party, which is a party that supports animal rights. So first of all, Marianne, welcome to New York City. Could you tell us a little bit about the movie and what is your involvement with this movie?
Okay. Well, since November 2006, I'm a member of parliament for the Party for the Animals, the first political party in the world that exclusively deals with the rights of animals. And we have also a scientific bureau that's called Nicholas G. Pearson Foundation, and they have made a film about the fact that meat is the #1 cause of global warming. And we all know the film of Al Gore, of course, The Inconvenient Truth, and he did a great job by putting the climate on the agenda, but he forgot one important thing, the fact that the meat which is on our plate is one of the biggest contributors to the global warming for the greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay, well, now we're getting interesting. So give us a little bit more information. How exactly does meat eating affect global warming? At first, it doesn't seem to be that much of a connection there. So could you explain that for our viewers?
Well, the discussion is always about the CO2 emissions. But what we forget is that methane and nitrous oxide is far more pollutive to our planet than CO2. And methane comes from animals like cows. So the cows, by burping and farting, they emit a lot of methane. And when you consider that we've got billions of animals stuck into cages and in big stalls, all producing a lot of methane, then you can imagine that it causes a lot of global greenhouse gas emissions. Plus the fact that all these animals have to feed with grains, and grains come from countries like Brazil. So there are soy, a lot of soy there, and that causes a lot of deforestation because the soy has to grow there, and 80% of all the soy goes to factory farming. So that causes also a lot of transport, greenhouse gas emissions, the fertilizers, the lack of forests that consume CO2. Right. So that makes meat production such a wasteful industry.
Right. Do you have any numbers? I hear some. I've read over the years, perhaps say 20 pounds of grain is required, or something to make 1 pound of flesh.
Yeah. Well, we have kilos in our country.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So it takes 7 to 10 kilograms to make 1 kilogram of meat. Yeah. So we lose 80% of all very useful proteins of plant proteins to go into an animal and just create 1 kilogram of animal protein. Sure. And when we know that 1 billion people go hungry every night to bed, while we are eating so much meat and we can feed the world with all these plant proteins, then you can imagine that it's better to have a plant-based diet. Exactly. It's better for the animals, it's better for your own health, it's better for the environment, but also out of solidarity. Right. You have to change your consume pattern.
Right. And not just the food they eat, it must take an incredible amount of water as well. I believe so many gallons of water are required for every pound of flesh. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, well, the World Watch Institute has calculated that for 1 kilo of beef, you need 100,000 liters of water. And we've got a sweet water shortage. And in a few years there will be water wars, as they call it, people suffering from a lack of water. So we have just one Earth, and we've got so many people. Within 50 years we've got 9 billion people, and we have to feed them, and we have an ecosystem which we have to protect. So what are we going to do with the grains that we've got? Are we going to give it to the animals, just for the meat industry, or are we going to eat them ourselves? Because if we do that, if we have a diet purely based on plants, we can feed 40 billion people without getting new agricultural land, with the agriculture that we've already got. So it's so easy to change. The US, in the US, if all Americans just skip 1 meat meal per week, that would save, it's the equivalent of taking 19.2 million vehicles off the road.
Wow.
In the US.
Wow,
that's incredible.
Well, I'm from England and you're from Holland, and living here in America, I mean, this is such a predominantly meat-eating country. Yes. Everywhere you go, there are meat products. They're getting cheaper, they're getting nastier, but there seems an even greater demand for people to consume these products. Coming from Europe, coming from Holland, is there a difference going on in Europe? Are people more open, or perhaps are more looking forward? Are there more vegetarians, more vegans, raw foodists in Europe?
Well, the group is growing. The awareness is growing. The fact that for the first time in world history there's a party for the animals represented in a national parliament, in our Dutch parliament, that's a strong signal. And a lot of people call themselves meat leavers. And that means that they skip meat meals for 1 or more days per week. Okay. And there are 4 million of them, and we are in a country with 15 million people. Right. So that's quite a lot.
Right.
I have the feeling that there's a change, that there's, as we call it, zeitgeist. It's in the air. People want to change. They see the food crisis, they see the financial crisis, and they think, what have we done? What are the real things that matters? Yeah. It's not the money, but it's clean water, clean air, clean ground. How do you call it?
Yeah, groundwater.
Yeah, water. Yeah. So I have the feeling that this could be the turning point. Now, just now, when we have all these crises, that people really are open for a paradigm shift. Right. And the thing is, how are we going to get the message spread around the world in a sense that it's
appealing for people. And if you try to convince them just by letting people see bad pictures of how animals are treated, or all these devastating pictures of all these pictures with devastating actions from people, that the polar ice cap is melting, then people get, oh, what can I do? But when you tell them that your fork is the most powerful weapon you have, and that the climate problem can be solved if you change what's on your plate, then people get, oh, I can make a difference. It's an individual choice. I don't have to wait for the government or for someone else.
I was on my way over here today. I was talking to the cab driver, and in the conversation I was having with him, he was saying something similar to you, and I hear it quite often, in that people seem to be waiting for government or some official body to make changes.
Yes.
And I always believe, I agree with you, that we hold the power, the people hold the power, and we each all individually have to change. Now, I know you were speaking at the UN while you're here in New York City. What is there, as far as the UN or on a global governmental scale? Are there any new policies out there, or what's being brought? What's in the future coming from them to support us?
There's a growing awareness also in the UN, but the problem is that the developing countries are only, well, their first concern is how we get to finance our economy. So to get them more aware about the fact that coal and energy resources are not the thing you have to invest in, then they say, well, but we are hungry. We want to develop our economy instead of putting an interest in climate issues. So the developed countries, who are so wasteful with our natural resources, have to make the first change by putting the climate theme on the agenda in our own production and consumption pattern. So you understand what I mean? So, and that's not really the case at the UN. A lot of people are only looking at how to get alternatives for the fossil fuels. And the meat thing is not really on the agenda. Although the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, stated that 18% of all greenhouse gas emissions come from the meat industry. And that's 40% more than all the emissions coming from cars, tractors, boats, ships, added together.
And also, I mean, when we look at South America and the deforestation of the rainforests in South America, really clearing ground for farming of animals. And yet these people are so poor, who can blame them in a way? They need to feed their families. Is the UN is there any proposals to help these people who are really doing it just to survive? How do they get by as we make this transition? Any insight for that type of challenge?
Well, what the UN is hoping for, and that's I think it's the least to say naive, is that the companies who buy all this stuff from the Brazilians of this soy for animal feed, they have to go into sustainable soy voluntarily. And you know, big companies never do something really voluntarily. Yes. So the lack of a directive is something that concerns me a lot. But my country is no government is really getting what's really important.
The real challenge. Now, also, I saw a few previews of this movie up on the internet, and I see that you're you know, where have you been promoting this movie, and what has been the reception that you've been getting?
Well, the Nicholas G. Pearson Foundation, who produced the film, did a great job of exporting this film outside the Netherlands. It's been released in London, in Dresden, in Germany, in Sao Paulo, in Brazil, right. Let me think where... in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, okay. But also they're they're coming to it's going to Japan and to Australia.
Great.
So we're doing what we can to get the message spread around the world.
Because I know when I personally became vegetarian or vegan, I lost a lot of friends. I had a lot of family members who didn't understand, and over the years they've come around. You've really taken a very strong and public position with this stand, and I really admire you for it, especially going globally with it. How do you see both ends of it, I presume? You see the supportive side and you see the big money meat industry side. How do you deal with, as a politician, how do you deal with those two sides of it?
When we launched our documentary in the Netherlands, the meat industry got furious. But also our state secretary on agriculture, who was just the marketing manager of the meat industry, she went mad as well. And she said it was a big lie. Okay. And that's what you encounter when you're trying to row in a different way against the stream, you know? Yeah. You encounter these emotions of fear, anger, and well, I think 9 out of 10 in our country think that the Party for the Animals is just a big joke. But what we see also is that a lot of people don't want to be 9 out of 10 anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but they incriminate you. First they neglect you. Then they laugh at you. They make fun of you. Then they incriminate you if they can't win it on making fun of you. But then you win. And that's what our Party for the Animals also encountered, all those phases. We went through all these phases and then we win. But every time we do a new thing, we have to go through these phases of try to ignore us, try to make fun of us, try to incriminate us. But you know, it's just... It's because of a lack of arguments that they do it.
Exactly. But I see also with the numbers that you have published that when you started in 2002, I believe, say 50,000, approximately 50, 60,000 people. Now you're up to 200,000 or beyond that. So the numbers seem to be growing, and that's got to be a good sign. Do you see that as something that's localized to Holland, or do you see that as something global, as you're connected with everything? Do you see a rise in this globally?
Yeah, not only in our country, but there are other political parties for the animals founded already now. In Belgium, in Austria, in Great Britain, in Spain, in Brazil. So it's spreading. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, we will win.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, we wholeheartedly support that. So I want to thank Marianne, and I want to say that you always got a lot of friends here in New York City. We really admire you, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Marianne, we really appreciate it. I'm Kevin Schuker, and this is QUEST.TV.
Get your green on.